Welcome everyone to the Empowered Hour for this fall. This one's a little bit different than our usual because we're really going to be interacting with one another and having a really fun time. So I'm Rochelle Alswing, and doing the session with me today is the one and only Stephanie. So I'll let Stephanie jump in and do the introductions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Pessis-Weil from Empowered Nonprofits. We are a firm that works with organizations to help them develop strategic fundraising programs and also to really build their board out and help them with their board and leadership development. We've been hearing a lot of organizations having some I wouldn't say challenges, but just looking for ways to really build a stronger partnership between their board and their staff. So we thought that this would be more of a train the trainer type of webinar where we give you ideas about how you can actually work with your board or if you're a staff person, and if you're a board person, what you can bring to your board to help everybody work really well on together, to help build a stronger partnership, to build a stronger board, and to help you move forward. This is one of the areas that we are really strong in as a consulting firm, but we thought, what better way to help our organizations with this free Empowered Hour and help them get some great ideas today.
Okay. So as we said before, if you were logging in, make sure you have your organization next to your name. That's going to help us as we move forward through these exercises. But we like to start off this Empowered Hour with a question to you, and I'd love to hear from 2 to 3 of you. Why are you here today? Why is the staff and board partnership important to you? Yes, you can also just jump in and do a little popcorn.
Okay. For me, I would say that our ability to be a stronger organization increases we just become a stronger organization when the staff and the board really partner together, and the staff were doing our job and supporting the board in doing their job as best as possible. And it's the accountability on both sides.
100%.
I would say as I'm the board chair for our camp, and I would say as a camp with a very small 4-person staff, it's really important for us to be able to figure out where are the lines and how do we, what's our role. And we have a new camp director. So it's like also a really good time, I thought, to kind of reset. And actually she was hoping to come, but her husband had an issue she needed to go take care of. But so it seems like good timing for us as well.
Yeah.
I would add that I've participated in nonprofit consulting projects for 2 organizations, and both of them started out with board alignment issues in which board members had been semi-involved, had not really come at it from a perspective of the board is there to support the executive director and more from an oversight perspective. And once we got the board set, both organizations have gone on to record budgets and growing it just exponentially. And so I would say it's absolutely critical to have the alignment between the board and the staff.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, and so there's nothing like starting the morning with a little pop quiz. So I'm going to test you all. Okay, so you should have seen on your screen a little pop quiz that's called Know Your Roles. There are 6 questions, so I'll give you some time to answer. And who's responsible for these roles? Is it the staff? Is it the board? Is it shared responsibility or neither? Question number 1, who prepares the preliminary budget? We have 67% that's elected staff. And then the rest, the 33% was shared. So Stephanie, what was the correct answer?
So the correct answer is typically the preliminary budget is created by the staff members. That doesn't mean that it isn't a cohesive partnership between the board and the staff at some point. The board ultimately owns the budget at the end of the day, but the staff typically have all the data behind the budget, and so we'll provide that to the board members.
Okay, question number 2. Who evaluates staff performance? We have 56% that chose staff and 44% that chose shared.
Okay, so who evaluates staff performance? So a little bit, this is a trick question. If you did say it's a shared responsibility, it's because probably you're thinking of the fact that the board is the boss of the executive director. So the board absolutely should evaluate the executive director, but the executive director is responsible for reviewing the rest of the team. Certainly they can they can ask the board members for input on the staff people, but it is ultimately their job to be responsible for the staff.
Okay, question number 3. Who interviews candidates for an administrative director level vacancy? 56% said staff, 11% said board, and 33% said shared. Good thing no one chose neither, so that's good.
The answer is actually shared for this one. An administrative director level vacancy is a very high level position that will be interacting with the board. So it's very important for the board to feel comfortable with the person in this position.
Okay, 4. Who appoints committee members? 11% said staff, 44% said board, and the split 44% said shared.
So actually, this goes to the board. Who sits on the committee is appointed by your nominating committee, which is purely should be made up of board members. That doesn't mean that a staff member, an executive committee member an executive director can't play a role in making recommendations based on their experiences, but the actual job of legally appointing comes from the board.
Number 5, who cultivates, solicits, and stewards major gifts? So we have staff at 11% and 89% shared.
So this one is a little bit confusing. Yes. So we are definitely we typically see the majority of that coming from board. We want to see board members bringing their contacts to the table and soliciting and stewarding, but oftentimes that can be a shared role with staff as well when it makes sense. But there should typically be, if you're doing a major gifts ask, we do like to see a board member on each of those meetings as well. There's a comment from Deborah. You're talking about the Illinois Not-for-Profit Act, right? Can you expand on that, Deborah, a little bit?
That was for your previous comment about appointing committees, because that I know is part of the regulations where you do need a vote by the board of directors on committee appointments, but so that's what you mean?
Yeah, so when you're submitting your minutes to the state of Illinois, it should state that committee members have been appointed by your board. Does that answer your question, Deborah? Is that clear? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Great. And the last question that we had on the pop quiz was, who plans the agenda or prepares the minutes for the board or committee meeting? We have 11% staff, 22% board, and 67% shared. And what's the correct answer?
So the correct answer is actually shared. Typically, you have a staff member that gets things moving and asks the committee chair and or the chair of the board to create the agendas. Oftentimes we as staff members take minutes, but those minutes should always be reviewed by a board person before going out to the organization, since technically your secretary should be the one submitting the minutes. to the board, to the state of Illinois, for record. So it is definitely a shared responsibility.
Okay. So why is this pop quiz important to start off? And so first, we just gave you a little teaser. At the end of this webinar, you're actually going to get a 2-page Know Your Roles quiz that you can share with your board and staff, as well as an answer key, and have this be an exercise that you can do together. So you could really see making sure that everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. And we feel like that's an important first step to make sure that everyone feels comfortable in their roles and they could move forward. Okay. So moving on, defining the role. So we gave an overview here of what the main differences are between a board and a professional staff. So obviously one's a volunteer, one's a paid employee. The board member is there to be more of like your big thinker, your strategic visionary, helping you go through the goals of the organization, and of course provide support to the executive director, while the professional staff is focused on the day-to-day, making sure the programs are being executed and managing and creating the budget and expenses for the organization. So together, you make a really beautiful, cohesive partnership that is going to advance the organization forward. And we think it's important to always go back to the basics of like defining the roles. And with this quiz, it'll help you make sure that things are aligned.
Okay. What are our goals for today? So we are going to give you 3 exercises that you can use once you walk away from today. You have 3 exercises. Not only are we going to talk about them, but we're going to provide you with the worksheets and the forms so you can go back to your board and actually conduct these activities with your board and staff moving forward. So we're really excited to send you home with these pieces that will help you have a stronger partnership moving forward. We decided to focus on a few different areas today. We're gonna we're focusing on board and staff partnership. We're gonna promote collaboration and alignment and creativity. The first activity that we're going to do, that Rochelle's gonna do in a minute or two, is a little just more loosey-goosey. Some of the other activities that we're going to do moving forward have a little more structure and definition to them. So we've given you a bunch of activities, and we're going to also let you know what each of them are designed for, and will help promote with your board, so that you know when it is appropriate to use them throughout your board meetings. Okay, we can move forward.
Okay, so the first one, it starts with you. This is your personal connection, why you're here, why you're part of the organization. So wherever you are, you could be in your office, in your kitchen making challah, in the car, try to find something that represents who you are. We'll give you 90 seconds to find an item, and then we're going to come back together and share our items. Okay. Well, great. So this is really important. Like, I think it helps first bonding, and for people to really see that there's more than just a job, and people matter. And so at every slide, when we talk about an exercise at the bottom, you'll see the purpose. So this is really good for relationship building. It's a team exercise. It's a great way to bring the human connection. And we really encourage you to do this with your board. And it helps align people's mission. And a different variation that you can come up with is that you can also bring a personal story of, have they had a personal connection to the organization? Did something happen? Or have they seen something, experienced something that has to do with the specific mission of the organization? And you can do this in smaller groups. Because we are a small group today, it was nice to just bring everyone together, but you can divide people in pairs and groups of 3s. It's also great as a pre-exercise to a retreat. So they're bringing in an item and they're sharing it. So there are multiple ways to develop this. And we hope that if this is something that you like and you think it brings like a nice human element to it, we encourage you to do that.
And you can always connect it back to your mission.
Yes.
So why are you here? How does this item connect to your mission? Why is this important? So it's just a great way to bring mission into it. And also the element of storytelling as well, getting people familiar with how to tell their story as to why they're involved with the organization is really fundraising at its finest, right? When we're telling a story, we're helping people, as Rochelle said, connect. So it also brings that element to it as well.
Okay, we're jumping into the second exercise, which is connecting to the mission. So this is one of our favorite go-to exercises called Know Your Organization. So you're going to take about 5 minutes to write down these prompts. So the first one is write one sentence about your organization. Then you're going to write 3 one-words about your organization. Then write one way your organization enriches lives. And then if you, as an extra bonus, you can write a story of how your organization has made an impact. And if you don't need to write the whole story, you can also write keywords. And then once you're finished that, we will go into the next part. So I will give you, it's 9:59. So you'll have 5 minutes to collect your thoughts and write it down, and then we'll regroup. So as you're writing down your one sentence, your 3 words, your one way in a story, I'm actually going to divide you into pairs. And so I'm creating little breakout rooms, and you're going to be put into these rooms with someone from the call, and you're going to share with one another these 4 components. And then we're going to come back together and debrief the exercise. Welcome back, everyone, for wherever you went. I hope you all had an opportunity to share. I know I went into one of the rooms with Barbara and Matthew, and hearing them talk was really, really beautiful. And I want to ask you, why do you think this exercise is important? As you started sharing and going through your prompts, why do you think this is an important exercise?
Yeah, I'll hop in just as we were talking about it a moment ago. You know, one of the things that I've seen in consulting is, you know, we'll talk to the CEO, and the CEO will say, you know, my entire team is in alignment. We've got a shared vision. You know, we're all rowing in the same direction. And then you go interview each of the direct reports and kind of put it on a wall, and you can see where the misalignment is. And so exercises like this, I think, get right to the core of, are we on the same page or are we not on the same page? So they're really good.
Exactly. Anyone else want to share what that was like? Was it hard? Was it easy?
I actually thought it was pretty easy. But to be fair, I feel like I spend much of my days talking about this stuff. So I think, yeah. Oh, and I've got a team that works for me in advancement that I'm teaching how to talk about this stuff. So I think I'm really doing this often. So it aligns pretty well with kind of what I do. Like fundraising advancement is storytelling. So it kind of fits in that realm, I think.
But what Michael and I did discuss is that even though he, as a staff person, was able to answer these things easily, there were pieces that his board might not have as developed as much. So that's an important piece for Michael. He's doing this every single day. How would your board do if you gave them this activity?
Stephanie, I totally agree with you. We did this exercise with our board this summer, which was really nice in terms of getting everybody kind of inspired. But then we also spent time practicing saying our mission statement. Because, you know, what I found here is number 1 and number 3 were just answered by our mission statement. And trying to get all our board members knowing our mission statement, being able to say it pretty easily, also seems to be really helpful for keeping people on message.
100%. So, you know, this is a great exercise to do in the beginning of a board retreat. As Stephanie said, you know, the staff are in it, they're in the weeds, and it could be easier to identify the ways that the organization makes an impact, but the board may not be aware, or they don't really know firsthand. So it's important to bring them in, and it helps develop their elevator pitch when they're going out and they're sharing their reason why they're there. And it just goes, as Matthew said, it goes down to the core. Lets you, step away from all the things that you say all the time and what does the organization do, and then make sure to whether you're aligned with the messaging, like what you're putting out there, is it actually what the organization is doing? And this is also a great way to work with your development team on launching your campaign. If you don't know what your messaging should be for a development campaign, this is a great exercise to help you do this. You get your social posts, you get your content, you get your copy. It's really a great all-around exercise. And different variations that we like to do in person is with Butcher Block. You put these big pieces of Post-its on the wall. Every question has a different Butcher Block, and people just go up and they write, and it's a really great collaborative experience. Steph, anything else you want to share about the variations or what you like to see?
So I actually have never done it that way, Rochelle, where you have people write the answers up. What I typically do is I stand up at the front and I have people say their one-word sentences, and then I ask them to do all their one words, and then I ask them to do all the enrich and just kind of like popcorn. But Rochelle, I like your idea too. I think that's a really nice way of doing it.
Okay. So moving on to the third exercise. So this is called Four Corners, nonprofit style. What do you bring?
When Rochelle pulls up the board, you're going to see 4 quadrants. And I'm actually just going to tell you the variation right now if you were in person. If you were in person, what you would do is pre the start of the board meeting or the retreat, you would take 4 pieces of Butcher Block paper and you would actually put one up in the 4 corners of the room. You'd have one say fundraiser, one is going to say relationship builder, one is going to say strategic fundraiser, and one is going to say finance. And you can put different things up there. That's what this group is going to say. And then I always ask people to go to their corner that they think best represents who they are and the skill sets that they bring to the table. And then we'll talk about the discussion that might ensue later.
Okay, so can everyone see the whiteboard? Okay, so you're going to select a sticky note and you're going to go ahead and write your name on a sticky note. Go ahead and move your sticky note to the area where you feel best identifies who you are. So obviously it's a little different to do it on Zoom, and this is the closest we could do from actually moving around the room. But we love to do this exercise and this question. And there's a variety of questions. So we like to start with the first one, which is like, where do you see yourself? And then followed by like, where would you like to go? Like if you want to be a specific type of person. So here let's reflect on the first one. We have a lot of people in the relationship category. We have Kelly, who chose to be in the middle, which I always love when folks like either stand like completely to the other side of everything else or they straddle too. And we have 1 in fundraiser and 2 in strategic visionary. So Kelly, if you're able to, do you want to share why you're in the middle? If you're able to speak?
It's a little noisy here, guys. I actually meant to be between fundraiser and relationship builder, but it probably makes more sense to be where I am because my role is a bit of everything. Just because we're a very small nonprofit. So over the last several years, it's what I do. I've found myself to be in each of these buckets.
Yeah, that's great. And that's why I love this exercise too. I love that Kelly was able to physically put herself in the middle. The way that I start off typically this is I will say, what do you notice about where everybody is? what do you notice about where everybody's standing, right? Because every group is going to have something different. So let's talk about that right now. When we're looking at, if we were a board, right? Let's pretend we're your board right now. We've got one person in fundraiser. We have two people in strategic visionary. Kelly's in the middle, and we have 6 people over in relationship builder. So if we're standing in a room together and we're a board and we need all kinds of talents on our board, what do you think a conversation is that we're going to have? What are we missing here? What does this visual show us?
Anyone in finance?
Right, exactly. Like, we don't have anybody who's comfortable in finance. Maybe I'm actually like, that's something I would like to be better at. So then I could say, okay, well, I would like to be better at that. And, or maybe, Michael might say, well, actually, I'm really a fundraiser, but I also am comfortable in finance. So you can maybe use me over there since that is a gap area. Right. So this visual of everybody standing in the room together and or here tells us where our gaps might be. Right. And then it can lead to a conversation about where we might need to fill things in, and how we might, and who we might need to recruit to our board to fill some of these roles if we don't have anybody on our current board that might want to fill them. It's 10:24, so I want to be really careful. We have one more exercise that I want to get through with you, so that we can let you go on time. If you have any other questions about the 4 corners, I'm happy to stay on for a couple of minutes after, as well, to answer questions. The last exercise that we have for you, Rochelle, I'm actually going to share my screen. I'm going to show the exact exercise.
Perfect.
You're going to get this as a freebie for you. This will be coming to you. It's called Stop, Start, Continue. I love finishing a board retreat specifically, or sometimes a board meeting, with this exercise. We're talking during a board retreat or a board meeting, we're talking about big things. We're talking about the organization as a whole. We're talking about, what's going on with programming, what's going on with finance and fundraising. And this, we got to kind of dig down to ourselves. And we got to think about, like, what are our own personal goals for our involvement in the organization. So what I like to do is I say, okay, I'd like everybody, here's your worksheet. Everybody, what I want you to do right now is state one of your own board or committee goals for the upcoming year based on this meeting today, what you know about what the needs are of the organization, where you might want to grow. Like, maybe after doing the 4 corners exercise, I've now decided, well, I'm a relationship builder. Maybe I want to have more training in fundraising. Okay, so that's going to be my goal for this year. So my goal is going to be, I want to solicit 2 major donors this year. That's my goal. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back of the worksheet. What are the things I'm going to stop doing to allow me to achieve my goal? What am I going to start doing? And what I'm going to continue doing? So what I'm going to stop doing is saying, I cannot fundraise. I can't fundraise. I'm going to stop saying that. I don't know how to fundraise. What am I going to start doing? I'm going to use the resources that I have. I'm going to talk to the director of development. I'm going to talk to my fellow friends on my board. I'm going to identify 2 people that I know, and I'm going to ask them to help me strategize about how to approach my people. What I'm going to continue doing is going to programs, hearing the stories, understanding the emotional heartstrings as to why I'm involved in this organization, so I can bring that to my solicitation experience. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give this activity, we're going to let people go and write their goals, and then we're going to put people into groups of 2s, and we're going to have them share their goals and their stop, start, continue with each other, so that they got the opportunity to actually speak those things out loud. And then what we want to do is collect this worksheet at the end, so that we can then follow up with each board member to help them achieve their own personal one-on-one goal during the course of the year. Does anybody have any questions about this exercise? Okay, Rochelle, you can put your slides back up.
Okay. So, you know, and this is a great quote that we love that I think is exactly how we want to end this webinar. If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. So we took you through this 1 hour webinar that started with you, your personal connection, then your organization. How well do you know? What's your messaging? What's your impact? To then knowing your roles. Where are you on the map? Where are you on the four corners? Where is your board? What are the missing gaps? And then your accountability, the action, your stop, start, continue. Where are you taking the organization and how are you going to propel forward? And so to answer the question that we started with, why is it important for a staff and board partnership? Why is it important to have that partnership? Is because only together can you really maximize your impact and take your organization where it needs to go. And it's really, really important that both partnerships and both partners are aligned and are able to understand the roles and the responsibilities of both, and that you're working towards the same goal. So a little bit of the takeaway. So after this webinar, you're going to be getting a bunch of fun things for you to use, to implement. So you have your staff enroll quiz worksheet with the answer key. You've done the exercise of the personal item. You're going to get the worksheet for the Know Your Organization. You're going to get the worksheet for the Stop, Start, Continue. And you're going to get this deck that's going to show you the different purposes of how you can execute these exercises. And we really hope that you feel invigorated to bring together your staff and board a little bit more and to start 2024 on the right foot, and you can really maximize the potential.
Rochelle, I just want a couple of things. I always like to, number one, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes if you have questions. The second is I always like to end meetings with a one-word wrap. It's a great way to understand how people are feeling as a result of the meeting. So if we could just go around, if everyone could come off mute and just say the one word that explains how they feel right now, that would be great. Gail, you want to start?
Well, I'm going to steal a word and say empowered.
Yay. Matthew?
Yeah, it's similar. Just maybe flip it and say powerful. I mean, the insights that we could pull out of something like this can really highlight where there's opportunity.
Amazing. I like that. Melanie?
I would say charged.
Good.
Charged up.
Good. Excellent. Michael?
Just say helpful, because I think these are some useful things I can actually share with our CEO as she's planning our board retreat.
Good. That was the whole purpose. So that's awesome. Barbara?
Similarly, I'll say motivated.
Good. Okay. Very nice. Well, thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, I'm happy to hang around for 5 minutes. Otherwise, good luck. And also, we're always here. Like if you, after you get all the information, you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us.